Hey there, folks. It's Bill Ricardi. How you doing today? I want to talk a little bit about my recent decision to look towards crowdfunding to create a full novel out of Mind of a Witness. I wanted to document the entire process. If there is indeed an entire process, this could be the first and the last video. However, if plans go well, if I get a callback, as it were, and I'll explain exactly what I'm doing in a moment, then there will be a series of these videos documenting each important step along the way. This video is just going to be about my decision process and the crowdfunder that I decided to go with. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Mind of a Witness is a novella that I created that I'm quite interested in turning into a full novel. However, the risk is I already have two properties, one of which is quite popular. That would be the world of Panos, the likes of Another Stupid Trilogy and the Blackstaff siblings. That is my bread and butter, and the more books I make in that series, the more of a professional writer I can be realistically. I can put food on my table. I have a passion project already as well, which is the Ehi Saga, which might be my best work, but it falls between genres, and that hurts sales. It's a tough tagline sometimes. I have to finish that at least as a trilogy. I would love to go 8 or 9 books with that. So, is it really worth the risk to go with an entirely new property, even if it's quite attractive and quite something that I'd love to work on passionately? The only answer to that, as a professional, is I would need guarantees up front. And the best way to do that is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, in essence, gives you sales ahead of time. It gives you a amount of money to work with, to live off of, as well as setting aside an amount of money for the likes of professional editing, for the likes of physical publishing, for the likes of graphic artists, etc., etc. That's all paid for up front by people who wish to fund it. Now, there are traditional, or I should say, hugely popular ways to do crowdfunding. I have chosen none of those. The reason is I have found a much better alternative for books. That better alternative is called Unbound, and that's the website that you see here on your screen. Unbound, as it says, is the world's only book publisher to use crowdfunding to raise funds for the publishing process. They publish over 250 titles. I believe at this point, they're creeping up on 300. They are, funding more and more projects, and they're actually quite selective about the books that they accept into their realm, which is probably why they have such a huge success rate. So why did I choose them? And why would I want to crowdfund books with a book-specific crowdfunder versus the likes of a generalist? The first answer to that is that the patrons that are part of the Unbound group, fan club, whatever you wish to call them, the patrons of Unbound are very passionate about books. They might also be interested in other things, but I don't have to compete against a technology project out of someone's garage. I don't have to compete against a graphic arts project. I don't have to compete against someone making a custom sailboat. These are all things that on the general funding pages for crowdfunding you might have to compete against. You are not as noticeable as an author on those sites. There's far too much competition, and the likelihood of any random individual stumbling across your page is quite low. Whereas here, they know what they're getting into. And the second part of it is these folks who want to fund books understand that a portion of what they are committing is automatically put towards the publishing process. Now, this is all done by a contract. I haven't seen one of their contracts yet, but from the folks that I've spoken to who have done very well with Unbound, they say that a portion or a percentage is automatically put aside for physical publishing, for digital publishing, for editing, for graphic arts, etc., etc. It's all apportioned out ahead of time. And of course, anything you make above and beyond that, a portion or a percentage goes towards your cost of living and the costs for you to actually produce the book, etc., etc. Now, I'm sure some of those are fixed, some of those are negotiable. I haven't seen a physical contract yet. But I've heard nothing but good things about Unbound. So that is why I'm going with them. They have a passionate audience, and they have an audience who does not mind books that fall between genres. And as you know, the only purest genre that I have going for me is my epic fantasy series, which is the Panos books, Another Stupid Trilogy, followed by the Blackstaff siblings. Everything else I've created falls between genres. I mean, even my horror short stories fall between, sci-fi and horror. The likes of the Ehi Saga falls between mythic fantasy and modern fantasy, and the likes of superhero fantasy, and it's all mixed in together. Had I known about Unbound when I first released the likes of Rhythm, when I then released Cadence, I might have looked towards them to help me with the funding and the advertising and the whole thing, and not undertaken all of that myself. But you live and you learn. With Mind of a Witness, because it falls somewhat between categories, it is an epic fantasy with a lot of historic fantasy elements to it. It's set on an other Earth called Othearth, right? A alternate timeline Earth, and I explain the alternate timeline, early in the process. So now I'm straddling that line between epic fantasy and alternate history, and I'm pushing the boundaries here. They won't mind. The readers here at Unbound and the staff at Unbound, they only care about quality writing, and genres be damned. They will take quality writing and understand and envelop themselves in the story, regardless of genre. Some of these books that are funded at the likes of 400, 500, 600%, are not your normal cookie cutter genre books. In fact, there are very few of those here on Unbound. So I think I might have found a home. Now, I'm currently in the review process, which means there are folks looking at it. They are trying to determine whether or not the writing quality is what they want, whether the messages are what they want. But if they determine that that is the case, I will likely have another video. And if they do not, I will likely not have another video. Not unless I start the process over with either About Again, when my duration to wait expires, or with another crowdfunder. But at the moment, I'm being optimistic, and I'm saying this is the first in a series of videos about my process getting funding through Unbound. So I hope that everyone understands what's going on. If you want to read the novella version of Mind of a Witness, go to www.billricardi.com. It's at the bottom of the screen. And go to the other section, and you can get a free copy of the novella version of Mind of a Witness, and understand that that's what I want to turn into something at least 5 or 6 times that length, into a full fantasy novel and a brand new fantasy world. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully we'll get a lot more of these. Cheers, bye!